We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us this morning talking suicide prevention. September is the month for that. Scott Ridgway's with us. He's all three of our guests are from the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. Scott's one of them, along with Joanne Purley, and Dr. Monty Hall. Thank you all three for coming on. You were going to wrap up your thought about how the services and everything out there, and when we become isolated, what that does is just increase the possibility of dealing with depression and getting no help. Right? So
we feel levels of loneliness creates the pathways for levels of depression. Okay. And we have learned that there are many levels of depression that go untreated.
Mm-hmm. Undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed. Mm-hmm. And therefore the journey, towards a dark pathway opens its rears its ugly head.
Are these people that don't know that they have depression? I mean, they just think they feel lousy, they don't think about why? Or is it that they just suspect as much, but they just choose not to seek treatment or get help?
It's often the latter, yeah. So the stigma surrounding that help-seeking behavior, whether it's going to counseling, telling a loved one, a friend, a primary care physician, someone that they know that might can help them get that help that they need. It's just so much stigma surrounding. Yeah,
it's so hard because sometimes when you're in it, we've all been depressed, and you just, when you're depressed, sometimes you just feel like there's no way out, and that's where your logic has to kick in and say, if I can just weather this and get some help, I may not be able to, believe it, but I'm gonna feel better. Mm-hmm. But when you're in it, sometimes the despair is such that you're like, there's no way out. Mm-hmm. Right. But you just have to say, I've not had clinical depression to that level, but when you're depressed, sometimes you're like, ugh. But then you stick it out, and then eventually you do feel better. If you get help, everyone can.
It also is access to behavioral health care. You may have access to physical health care, so you go to your primary care doctor, and so they may prescribe you some medication that you may think that might help, but it might be a small dose, and it never does help. And so you never touch a mental health center or touch any type of behavioral health type setting. And so it's access to behavioral health setting.
Yeah. Let's take a call or two. We've got I think on line one. Good morning. Are you there, Ann? Line one. Good morning. Are you there, Ann? Oh, hang on. Let me see. I'll hit that again. Are you there, Ann?
Good morning.
Hey, Ann. Go ahead. That was my fault. I think I hit the wrong button. Go ahead, Ann.
Yes, I have two questions. I worked at Metro schools for many years, and the last 20 were in high schools. And school counselors spent very, very, very little time actually with their students, to the point where this year it's been mandated that they actually spend 20% of their time physically counseling students in mental health issues and getting to know the student, not counseling them on where to go to college. But in interactions and getting to know the actual students themselves. That's how much of an issue this is in our metro schools. And I'd like their comments on this, because these people come and do in-services for campus support employees every year. But the certificated employees who are there for the students are not actually spending time getting to know the students in the school.
Okay, that's interesting, because she's right. I mean, I remember counselors, when I was in school, used to be like, all right, let's look at your transcripts and figure out if you can get into a college anywhere. But now, I think it's good what she describes. You guys familiar with what she was talking about?
Well, we really appreciate all you do for our students in our school, and so I mean, one of the things that we've been working with schools, and especially school counselors, is implementing a protocol so when a student is identified in a school that has suicidal ideations, that they follow this student behavioral checklist. And so whether it's a bus driver, whether it's a cafeteria worker, whether it's a teacher, that they identify in every building in a school system all across the state, that if they follow this protocol, that basically once the student has been identified, that they notify this individual and this checklist is followed, then on the front end, basically, then we're looking at trying to provide a safe environment for the student, and this checklist is just followed through. And
what's on the checklist?
It's really
be more specific. So it's always this broad stuff. I want to know specifics. So you see a kid, and all of a sudden, a behavior changes, where he starts wearing black all the time, or he doesn't talk anymore when he used to talk. What kind of things?
Well, basically, you've got to identify that the child is expressed.
How do you do that?
Well, the child has said that he wants to kill himself.
Okay.
He has changed his behavior where you've seen any type of attitude changes, unexplained aggression, anger. You've seen a host of things that has really clearly indicated.
Like a real change,
yes,
though.
You've asked the child, are you thinking about suicide? The child says, yes, I want to kill myself.
Oh, wow.
And so you've implemented the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale.
So now, if you ID that, though, don't you have to be careful not to, separate the kid? How do you deal with them without making them feel like they're being, ostracized or pulled out of the group of the rest of the students?
Well, I mean, it's a very complex. Our legislation in our state requires all full-time employees will have 2 hours of suicide prevention training on an annual basis.
Okay.
That means if you're a bus driver, cafeteria work, so you're getting extensive training already. And so it's not like that, if a bus driver hears Johnny get on the bus the first thing in the morning and says, I hate my parents and they're going to regret it when I kill myself, then there already is an indication that Johnny is thinking about it. And so when they get to the school, they can go into the school and notify the designated person that's in charge of this protocol. And basically they fill out this form, and then they can get back on the bus, keep the confidentiality, and go back to work. The teachers can keep their confidentiality and follow this protocol.
And then the kid gets some help, because
exactly.
I mean, because that applies to all kinds of things. I mean, these in-school shootings with kids.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, sometimes they're going to kill themselves, sometimes they're going to kill other people, and then themselves. And in so many of these cases, with some of these youngsters in these shootings, I don't know how much more I had to wave a red flag in front of someone's face to say there was a problem with this kid and nothing was done.
Exactly.
That's why I think what you're doing is excellent. But in fairness, it seems like there's so much on our schools. And I mean, my primary concern for my child's bus driver is not paying attention to see if Billy's feeling depressed. I want him to notice if it is. I want him focused on the road.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You're asking him to do so much more to see whether or not the kid's depressed, but you can't pay attention to every kid in the bus if they're acting peculiarly. His main job is driving a safe bus.
Exactly. And so being able to have these trainings on an annual basis is being able to recognize those warning signs. When they recognize those warning signs, then what do when they hear it? Okay, and so whether it's a teacher that has the responsibility to provide the education, that's their ultimate goal. Okay, it's not to counsel. It's to be able to educate and provide the education that they're supposed to be able to do. So when counselors are supposed to be able to help students be able to figure out what their tracks are, whether it's the college tracks or vocational tracks, they've got so many students, so being able to designate a person, whether it's an administrator, a counselor, or someone to handle the protocol, then this has been tested and proven. Maury County School System was the school system that piloted this protocol. Wow. It is a model protocol that really works.
And now other school systems are looking at it and doing it.
And it's phenomenal. Metro Schools is using it here.
On so many levels, that's just super important.
It is. It is. But
let's take a call from Courtney. Hi, Courtney. Good morning. Are you there, Courtney?
I am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi. I was wondering, if someone wanted to get involved with the suicide prevention effort, how would one do that?
Oh, you mean to help in become an operator or a counselor or be involved in some of what they do?
Yeah. How can they get involved in the network and, promoting this prevention and the awareness and the education? And are there volunteer opportunities, different things like that?
Okay, good. Great question. Appreciate that. Sounds like someone's looking to help. What do you get? Any suggestions for her?
Thank you very much, Courtney, for reaching out to us. So you can just call our central office, the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network office, or go to our website. We have various ways that any public citizen can get engaged with us. We are currently hosting a Get Involved campaign, actually, that you can sign up. And every single day almost, I am getting wonderful people who have the heart, maybe not the time, but the heart to volunteer. And you can just ask for me, Mani Hall, and I will help you decide which way you can give us some time. But you can help us with outreach through social media campaigns that we have. You can help us through being with us through presentations and displays and exhibits and events that we host. You can help us with piling paperwork at the central office. So there are wonderful new ways for you to reach out back to us. And I want to make a point here, Nick. I spent the last decade of my life infusing academic service learning in Tennessee higher education. And I did that intentionally because I wanted our college students to have an avenue to expand their energies, beyond studying and graduating, to be connected to the larger community. Because what we see is if you don't figure out ways to reach out as part of your community role and your community service, either through direct service or through a service learning process or a civic engagement process, that is what kind of works with the disconnect.
Yeah.
And then you are more and more, isolated with your phone or computer, and you're not interacting and not having that exchange and not having that connection. So we have now institutionalized service learning in our state, and our students are truly benefiting from it.
Okay.
I was just at APSU in a media relations class of 28 students, and out of the 28 students, at least 18 of them raised their hands when the professor asked, have you had a suicide impact your life? So we are having those students work with us through a service learning course to make a contribution both ways.
Good. All right, we got to take a break on that. Is that good?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, the number 737-7587. More of your calls right after this.